The DOJ's controversial anti-weaponization fund is now the target of a lawsuit filed by two officers who defended the U.S. Capitol against January 6 rioters. The $1.8 billion fund was created this week as part of a settlement between President Trump and the federal government. I want to bring in CBS News Justice correspondent Jake Rosen. Jake, what else do you know about this lawsuit and how strong is their case?
Well, we know that it was filed by a retired officer, Harry Dunn, and a current Metropolitan Police officer, Daniel Hodges. Both men defended the U.S. Capitol after an angry mob of Trump supporters on January 6, 2021 attempted to storm the building to stop the certification of the Electoral College. Part of the complication of this lawsuit, despite the fact that these men obviously were victims of that mob, is that legal experts who we've spoken to since this fund was announced, this $1.7 billion fund was announced, is that it's going to be very difficult to challenge this in court because the Justice Department does have broad authority authorized by Congress to issue settlements without going case by case through the legislative body to settle these kinds of things. Now, that Congress did indeed open the door for this kind of funding to happen, but $1.776 billion is quite a lot of money, which has faced a lot of blowback. This is the first major legal challenge, but the first step that these two men and their lawyers are going to have to prove is that they have standing in this lawsuit, that they are going to be irreparably damaged if this fund continues, the funds are paid out, and they claim, at least, that those people who terrorized them on that day have continued to do so, and by rewarding them financially, the tormentation can continue. It's going to be certainly a very interesting legal battle, as other legal groups here in D.C. and elsewhere around the country are certainly considering other legal actions against the fund. Potentially, we might even see some legislation in Congress to attempt to do so. However, President Trump would likely veto any legislation that's passed.
So, Jake, are there any guardrails, though, on the fund in terms of barring people who took part in the January 6th attacks?
Well, that's one of the complications, and we saw a senator from Maryland, Chris Van Hollen, today say that he was going to introduce an amendment to the current congressional negotiations over a budget that are currently ongoing right now to try to stop people who have been convicted federally of assaulting law enforcement officers from receiving any kind of payout. That amendment would also include anyone who is convicted of any child sex assault crimes as well. We know that it just is not quite the appetite there right now, despite some very vocal statements from congressional Democrats to build up any kind of strong bipartisan consensus to challenge this. And the Department of Justice and White House have not outright refuted whether they would oppose any kind of settlement for any January 6th defendant or anyone convicted of assaulting a federal law enforcement officer. As we know, this fund essentially, as Todd Blanche, the acting attorney general, has said, is wide open for anyone to apply. Democrats and Republicans are welcome, but he will get to choose 4 of the 5 members, and in consultation with Congress, they'll choose one more. President Trump can fire them at any time, and there is no criteria. Todd Blanche says that those 5 people instead are going to set what, quote, weaponization means and who would be able to get any kind of payout.
Jake Rosen, thanks so much.